Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Raise Up Dev Hacktoberfest Help Desk. My name is Joe, and I'm your host for this show. If you're new to the show, the Hacktoberfest Help Desk is your place to get help with landing your pull requests this Hacktoberfest. We are here 3 times a day throughout the weekdays of October to help you with any problems you may be facing with your Hacktoberfest contributions, whether that's actually making a contribution to a project that you've already found, finding a new project, finding new ways to contribute. We are here to answer your questions, give you tips and tricks, and show off cool projects you can contribute to and talk about code in general. So today on this show, we have another very special guest joining us. I'll bring them on in just a moment. But before that, some little house rules, tips and tricks, administravia, that kind of thing before we get going. So first of all, as NH Carrigan's already demonstrated, you can jump into our chat and talk to us anytime throughout the show. This is live. We are going to be interacting with chat. We had a lot of people yesterday who were asking if we were pre-recorded for some reason. I wish our show looked that good, but no, we are live. And we will be answering your questions as we go along. And if you have any, it's not pre-recorded, you're right, Nicholas. And if you have any questions, we will try and answer them before the end of the show. If your question is like not directly related to the topic we're talking about, we may not answer it straight away, but we will circle back around to it. So stick around and do not worry about that. The other thing to talk about is, as I said, we are live 3 times a day for the next 8 days still, and our full schedule is at twitch.tv RaiseDev schedule. That is a week-by-week schedule. I called it the full schedule. That was a lie. It is a week-by-week schedule. So this is our schedule for the rest of this week, and we update it over the weekend for the following week. So right now you can go find out what we've got going on today, Thursday and Friday, and stick around at the end of the show, and I'll give you a run through of what's happening with the schedule for the rest of the day and week. So stick around then for that little teaser, or you can go check it out now and see for yourself. The other last thing before I bring on our guest, if you haven't heard of us at Raise.dev before, we're a service to help you level up your developer career. You can go to Raise.dev and sign up now completely for free whilst you're in early access. And how it works is that you meet one of our wonderful coaches who works with you to get you the experience that you need to get your first developer job, transition into a new role, get a promotion, move from mid-level to senior, whatever it is, whichever step in your developer career you are trying to take, we will help you make that jump with the help of our expert coaches. And as I said right now, it is completely for free whilst we're in early access, so you can sign up today at raise.dev. So that is everything from me. Let me bring on our wonderful guest for the day. Please welcome Daniel to the stream. How you doing, Daniel?
Hey, Joe. How are you doing?
Good.
So I was planning on doing a bit and teasing the joke and asking, like, am I supposed to say this is not pre-recorded?
Oh God, no, we are very. Oh, hang on, we've already got a question. Are we going to code on the process, or can we be part of commercial projects? I'm not sure I understand. If you could elaborate a little bit, Paranoid Android, I'll try and get to that. But before then, Daniel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Daniel Phiri. I'm a developer advocate at Strapi, a DJ. Well, I think I do too much, so I'll leave it to that. And I'm currently based in Lusaka, Zambia, so that's cool. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And it's possibly the furthest away a guest has been while being on the same time zone, which is always fun.
It is always fun. So Strapi's in Paris, so I guess I don't really feel it. So that's always nice. When I see Luke mentioned he tried Strapi when it was in alpha. There's been a lot of changes now. We've got a stable version and we're releasing features like no man's business. So you should try that.
Awesome. So we'll definitely talk about Strapi a little bit. I guess to give for the viewers to let you have a brief idea of what we've got planned. But as always, we sometimes go on crazy tangents. We're going to start off talking a little bit about Daniel and your career and what you're up to, and I guess also Strapi and what Strapi is and how it works. And then we have what we call Git Blame, which is our fun game where we dive into some old code of one of our guests and they talk about what they would do differently today. And today we're doing that with a Vue project. Is that correct?
Yep, with a Vue project. Awesome. That'll be very fun.
Yeah, I have. This is going to be really embarrassing to say. Hopefully Kevin's not around. I've never looked at a line of Vue in my life, which is funny because my website is in Vue.
Are you
yeah, I hired someone to make my website. I was like, yeah, and then it was a Vue site. Yeah.
To be honest, if you've done HTML, Vue will be super familiar.
Perfect. We're gonna learn some Vue today. Well, I'm gonna learn some Vue today. For the rest of you, you might have more insightful questions than I will. So awesome, cool. So let's start off with you. So you're a developer advocate right now, and this was I know you've been really interested in DevRel and community work for a while. Tell us a little bit about how that all started for you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I have been very interested in DevRel and community work for a while. It started with you, actually, Joe.
My bad.
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea how you managed to get me interested in this thing. But I was in the GitHub Campus Expert program, and of course, Joe, and that was interesting and sort of gave me a glimpse of how to like engage communities and what communities could do, and that was
Right.
sort of like I don't like to say turning point, but I just realized that
Right.
there's this thing that I like to do that
Yeah.
can be done professionally, and I had a couple
Right.
of chats with people doing the same thing. I
Yeah.
think at the time there was Carl, who's still at Unity, and there was another developer advocate from Twilio who I talked to. I think that was
Well, that could be. There's a million of them.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, we just sort of had that chat, and I was still a student at the time, and they were really just telling me about how everything was like how it was possible, right? And yeah, it sort of just clicked, and I was like, yo, I need to do this. Like, this is a thing I want to do. And
Right.
that's sort of how I got interested in DevRel, or at least
Nice.
I got a glimpse of what it is or what it could be.
Nice. Awesome. And you kind of like entered DevRel professionally at a really interesting time. Like, I know you've been doing stuff for some other orgs throughout the year, but in terms of Strapi, you kind of like that hit very close to when COVID kicked off, right? So you've very much seen like the new face of DevRel, and what we're all still learning is the way we do things now.
I feel like I think like a year ago, DevRel was everyone showing off their crazy travel schedule. Everyone's now just showing off
who's got the most air
setups
miles
and hacks. Yeah, everyone's just showing off their hacks for streaming and green screens. So it's
no comment. Zero comment on green screens. I am like coming to you live from an actual canal.
Sure.
So what does your day-to-day at Strapi look like? Actually, before that, we should probably talk about what Strapi is, I guess.
Yeah, so Strapi is a headless CMS. It's a really interesting headless CMS, to be honest. There aren't very many open source headless CMSs out there. And it's that way because it started out as a backend framework, so an API framework built with Node.js.
Right.
So like Strapi is like literally wordplay. It means, well, it came out of Bootstrap your API. So it was really just like a quick way of getting an API up and running.
Right.
I
didn't realize that's where the name came from. That's really clever.
Yeah, it is really clever. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into a headless CMS, and it's I guess the self-hosted nature and the open source nature of it have really struck a chord with many developers, and we have an amazing developer community.
Right.
So that's really cool. And being open source, I guess like a big thing is customization. I'm always just so surprised by the stuff people do.
Yeah, which is of course also like a big thing about headless CMSs in general, is that like they're really yours to like, versus like when you use like, I don't know, like a WordPress or something like that, and you've got like a front end to integrate with. You can throw Strapi into like literally anything. So like
so like headless like inherently, I guess, like gives you so many front ends, right? Like you can do like mobile applications, web applications, even like IoT devices and stuff. I've seen people use Strapi for Unity also, but because of like Strapi's API past, I guess, or let's call it that, API past, there's like a bunch of customization you can do for like a bunch of hooks on on adding data, and you can abstract some like backend business logic into your CMS and do a couple of really interesting things, like aggregate data from stuff in your CMS. And it's super cool, to be honest. I wish I'll try and speak in something. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're very welcome to show it off. We had we saw Contentful, and people had a lot of questions about like how these things work. And so you're welcome to show off. So I just want to briefly also talk about like talking about that headless nature and how you use it. I know last time we spoke, you were talking about the fact that like between your client and the Strapi server, like where your content actually lives, you support GraphQL and all those like relatively new ways of doing this stuff. Do you want to briefly talk about like how, say, I was using Strapi for a blog, like how I'd actually pull my content over?
Yeah. So by default with Strapi, we have the REST API, and GraphQL is getting a lot of adoption of late,
Right.
and I think it's really cool. I really like GraphQL, and if you want to use that with Strapi, we have a plugin for that, and all you do is like run a command. So you've got two choices: run a command or like click a button in the admin, and you get GraphQL installed.
Nice. Oh, I think I've lost it. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Yeah. So like once you have access to the GraphQL API, you can like all you have to do is use a GraphQL client in your front end. The most popular, I guess, at the moment is Apollo GraphQL. And it's like making a usual REST request. You get back some data and you display that data. And like that's the process. It's really straightforward.
Yeah. Super neat. So it must be a fun project to be a developer advocate for, given that like, literally anyone can build stuff on top of it, and you're not like limited to a certain like developer community or whatever.
It isn't like I've seen and talked to like friends who are like developer advocates for like database companies, and there's very little that people can build on top of. Well, I mean, not like a MongoDB, like a very funky enterprise type,
There's only like so many different ways you can show off a database, right? It's like, hey, there's a database for this type of data, there's a database for that type of data.
Exactly. I mean, like time series, okay, that's cool, but like beyond the stock market and like a few other stuff, what can I do with it? So like it's really interesting. I've been building a job board with Strapi and Chakra UI, and that's been really nice. It looks really clean, really sleek. And like there's so many things you see people building. People have integrated Strapi with like Unity and built VR games. And
how does the Unity integration work? They're just pulling content into the game with it, or like what?
Yeah, so I think they're just making. So I think they're using with that one. They're using like the REST client and just pulling data from Strapi, like for assets, I guess. I didn't really look too deep into it, but it stores like user data and content for different scenes, which is interesting, pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's really. I'm gonna have to try and find that. That sounds really intriguing.
Yeah, I think that. So I think the person actually did a whole series on YouTube just explaining their process of going through building like a game with Strapi and Unity.
Right.
So
I've got it. Huh.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. Dr. Sorry, it's now loading the page. There we go. Dr. Shanin Rostami. That ring a bell?
Yeah, I think that's the one.
That's wild. So they're using it for a lot of like social features and stuff, which makes sense and super cool.
Yeah, people are building like forums with Strapi and like a bunch of really cool applications, like link sharing applications, so like Bitly clones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Blogs and career sites, job sites. Like there's that stuff, and then there's like the really interesting stuff. People build like bots. I think that's super interesting. I think one of my teammates has a bot, like a Discord bot that's powered by content in Strapi. So he has like he uses the CMS data to store, I guess, data from his game. So he plays like this online game, and he stores all of that in there. And then like he has a Discord bot that sort of aggregates data like after a certain amount of time, and then pushes that into Discord and just sends it for everyone to see, I guess, like ratings and scores and matchups, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah. So I guess now that we've explained, I guess, what Strapi is and how it works, back to the question of like what your day-to-day is like as a developer advocate and like what it is you do.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a lot. There's a lot that I touch on, to be honest. Like you said, with a project like Strapi, there's so much you can do, and I think I could probably be a bit louder about it, but the community we have and the content they create is just amazing. So I guess that takes a bit of that off my plate. I don't necessarily have to go all out creating like content, writing blog posts, because people are always doing like the most amazing things with them. And I'm really just there to guide them and help them make that content the best it can be. So we have a Write for the Community program.
Cool.
And I manage a lot of the content and make sure it's out in time, make sure it looks great, make sure writers are engaged and, having fun doing all of that. And I also do a bit of writing myself. I recently put together, I've actually done a couple of blog posts for Strapi.
I think one or two. Blog, here we go.
Yeah.
I'll embarrass you by posting your links in chat. So I did just post that the Write for the Community. Yeah, the community program. Here we go. Building a blog with 11T and Strapi. It's a lovely Daniel blog post.
Yeah, there's this one that I did, which I think is the longest blog post I've ever written.
Oh, really?
I think it was about 16,000 words.
Ooh, that's a dissertation. What, that's this one?
No, that's not this one. So it was about Strapi dynamic zones, which I think I should demo. I should probably demo that. I think that's one of my favorite Strapi features. And that was super fun to work with. So it does support. Luke is asking if Strapi supports storage in Markdown. So is that so it's not a Git based CMS. You can have your Markdown in so it's not like Netlify CMS. It's a headless CMS, so it has an API. And I think one thing I should have probably mentioned about Strapi is it stores your data in a database, and you have a lot of options on what type of database you should use.
Right.
I think that's something I leave out a lot.
Right. Well, I guess that's only relevant if you're deploying it yourself, right? Whereas if you're using the hosted service, you don't need to have to worry about which database you use.
So we don't have a hosted service at the moment.
Oh, really?
No cloud service. We have a ton of guides on how to deploy your Strapi applications to a bunch of really cool platforms like Heroku. I use Heroku.
Right.
Yeah. So we have really cool one-click applications to get you up and running.
Nice. Awesome. Super cool. Before I forget, sorry, I have to go on a brief tangent about Rails.dev because the question that was asked earlier, and I want to make sure I don't forget it. So Paranoid Android wrote about Rails.dev. It says we're going to code at least one project throughout the journey. Is that project a commercial project that Rails.dev generates revenue with, or is it going to be open source project or something else? Very good question. You decide the project that you work on. We don't entirely know what the options, basically, you decide the project you want to work with your coaches at the moment. We don't entirely know to what extent we will be able to offer pre-guided tracks or projects in the future. John, our founder, speaks a little bit more about this in a video interview we did on our Twitch page. If you go to our Twitch channel and look up Bridging the Developer Relations Gap, you'll find him talking a little bit more about this. Basically, the too long didn't read is if you want to work on an open source project or your own project, that's totally cool. We are hoping to work with companies where you get to work on their projects, and at the end of the project, that may lead to a job with that company, for example. That is not yet a thing. That's something we tried with the pilots. We actually mentioned on the show before this, for example, that Raise.dev worked with DigitalOcean to build the Hacktoberfest site, and now some of those people work at DigitalOcean. So that's something we hope to continue. It's not currently something that exists, though. So you get to choose the project. We don't make money from the projects that you work on your own, obviously. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. Sorry, Daniel, for my brief tangent.
That's cool. Okay. That's pretty cool, by the way.
Thank you. So yeah, that makes sense. You do a lot of content, and I guess that's the majority of your work at the moment, given that events are kind of dead. But I know that in the past you worked a lot on not just going to conferences, but also organizing conferences in your local community in particular. Are you still able to do any of that?
Oh,
no. I'm sorry.
No, I wish I was. So I was doing my analysis of the past 3 months, and so I have also been doing quite a bit of conferences and speaking. And I think in the past 3 months I did 12 events, which is weird, but it's all online, so that's cool. And I also do events for Strapi also, actually. We're hosting a webinar series, and
nice.
Oh, thank you. There's lots of love for Strapi in the chat.
Well, it is the most popular open source headless CMS, as the footer tells me.
Yeah, as the footer says. I mean, like, I guess I would say numbers don't lie, but like vanity metrics. So I
really getting into the DevRel juice there.
Exactly. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Paranoid Android. And so yeah, I mean, I do like a couple of events, and we're starting this really cool series which I'm putting together that we'll be talking to like a bunch of people using Strapi, and it's not really technical, like a good bridge of like talking about their stack and stuff, but also just their journey getting to use Strapi, because we also just went stable a couple of months ago, so I think that's really important to get people perspectives on that that jump.
Yeah, still early stage and still feedback to be gathered and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
awesome. Right, super cool.
So it's
where can people find those webinars if they want to catch them?
Oh, we have a live storm. Let me look for that link. It's Strapi live storm.
Live storm.
Yeah,
live storm.
So it's a, I guess it's a StreamYard.
I've got the link.
Yeah, it's sort of a StreamYard, I guess.
Nice.
For, I guess, more webinars than streaming.
Yeah. Huh. I'm learning about so many new platforms this week.
It's super cool.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So I guess that kind of covers your journey and what you do kind of day to the moment. Should we dive into some Vue code?
Yeah, I would love to. I think there's a bit of a lag. Is everything okay on your end?
It looks like it is, but there may be. Hopefully, it will catch up. If I end up interrupting you or anything because of the lag, I'm very sorry. If the viewers can confirm that they can both, that like if you can confirm that you can see and hear us, that would be super great. But it looks okay.
All right, that sounds great. I will start with my screen share, I guess. We can jump into some Vue code, and I can give you a Vue introduction.
Yeah, and also tell us like what this app does and that kind of thing.
Awesome. All right, let me just take this to the other window and start sharing my screen.
So again, just for the viewers, just to underline, so what we do with this kind of segment, I guess, is we encourage guests to bring some code they wrote in the past, and we would talk about, since they've learnt and grown, what they would do differently today. Or in this case, I'm mostly going to be like, what am I looking at? What is Vue?
So I actually, like when I was looking at this, one thing I was shocked about is that it ran, because, so I'll just give you like a brief overview of this application.
Yeah.
I'll go to, oh my bad. I'll go to the actual application. So this is the application. Yeah. I made this in October 2018. That's literally 2 years ago. And this was sort of my DevRel app for my work at Hasura.
Right.
At the time, Vue was still pretty new as like a front-end framework, and it was trying to like make itself, like establish itself. And Hasura was sort of also there. It wasn't the behemoth it is today.
Right.
So like my job was, because there wasn't much Vue GraphQL content, so it was sort of my job to engage that community. So building demo applications was a huge part of what I was doing, just so that people can understand the workflow of GraphQL and Vue. And this is sort of something that I read just to sort of get into, a few GraphQL operations and how to, like basically just how to display data in a Vue application.
Some common CRUD. Yeah, some common CRUD things. Exactly. And I'm so sorry that you had to read Gary V's book. That must have been very difficult.
No, wait, which one is that?
Crushing it. Yeah.
I actually really like it. Well, some parts of it.
Yeah, that guy has an energy that just exhausts me being in proximity to
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the type of person you want to be around all the time, but he has some gems now and then.
Cool.
Awesome. So
okay.
So this is the application. I think it is the perfect application to show off, because it is, one, aesthetically not very pleasing, and I think that speaks to a lot of my CSS skills at that time.
Developer design.
Exactly. I was very lacking in that. But how it works was, you put in a book, What book do we put in? The book name. What book have I been reading? It's a really long title. And yeah, I guess I can't really say that. Can I say that on stream?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, how to unfuck your boundaries.
Interesting.
I think I have it. No, I don't. I really forgot the author, but she's a like renowned psychologist.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. How to unfuck your boundaries. That is by Faith G. Harper.
Ah, yes, Faith G. Harper. So there's a lot of things that could have been done a lot better in this application. Right. So what you did was you put in like the title, you put in the author, you press add, you get a little book has been added.
And it works, which is nice.
Yeah, and it works. So you press done to close like the model. The model is like this pop-up thing that we're seeing. And here's like the first problem. So the entry that we just put in wouldn't show up automatically. We had to refresh it.
Refresh this. Yeah.
Yeah. And
which triggers the hard refresh. Okay, cool.
Exactly, which is like a hard refresh. Yeah. So at that time, like I mentioned, like GraphQL and Vue didn't really play well. And I think this will lead me to get into like the first thing I would have done better, or at least the thing I can do now.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the thing I did eventually is like add live queries. So you don't have to have that hard refresh on your page and just have data show up when it's updated here. So it uses something called GraphQL subscriptions, which are, the way they work is with usual GraphQL queries, you send a request for certain data and you get back certain data. And it's like a one-time thing. It has to be triggered and then it comes back. But with live queries, you sort of have a WebSocket connection to a server. And when any changes happen in your server, it like triggers a request and new data is sent to your front end. So that automatically shows up on your front end.
Nice.
And yeah, so I implemented that in a couple applications later on. And yeah, I think that's sort of the first thing I would have done better. So yeah, I guess I've explained the application. Let's
for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, the application makes sense.
I hope so. I mean, I have no idea of telling if like people actually built out real world applications based off that demo thing.
Right.
But yeah, that would be.
Well, it's like to do app level stuff, right? Like it's useful to have something that does these basic CRUD operations when you're understanding a new framework or when you're understanding a new product, so you can just see how the basics are and then you can build it out in whichever way that works. So
yeah,
here I'm seeing a lot of stuff that looks very template languagey, like inside. I'm guessing this is where Vue is coming into this, like this @click stuff. Cool.
So I hope this is big enough for you. Can you see this okay?
I can see it fine. If anyone in chat's struggling, let us know.
Okay, great. I think it's okay. I'll sort of like explain the directory structure.
Cool.
We have like node modules, which is like all your project dependencies. And we have like a public folder where we have like our favicons and like stuff that our server needs to, the public stuff basically.
Cool.
And we have our source, which is everything that is like Vue in the application. And in the source folder, we have main.js, which is like your application entry point.
Cool.
And there's like a few very interesting things happening here. This is sort of where we initialize the Vue and create that virtual DOM, which a lot of modern JavaScript frameworks are known for. And we also have like an Apollo provider, which helps us utilize GraphQL in like Vue template. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we do a lot of initialization here. If you ever add a plugin, this is the like method vue.use Apollo plugin. This lets us use Apollo. Vue Apollo, which is the GraphQL client that helps us make queries to like a GraphQL API. And this is where all that stuff goes.
Nice.
And yeah, so this is also, it's amazing because like immediately I ran this application, my Heroku application started up, and I haven't touched this in 2 years.
And it's still just running happily on Heroku?
Yeah. I know. I was so shocked. I went like when I ran it, it worked. Like all the data came back, which was amazing.
Is it like that's? I guess it's on the free tier on Heroku.
Yeah, it's on the free tier.
It's one of my favorite things. Like you can just leave it, and it will just go to sleep for innumerable years until it's time for it to wake up and slumber back into. Nice.
Exactly, and be useful to the world again.
Yeah.
Like it was today. But yeah, that's everything about like initializing Vue and setting up like a few config stuff. This uses Vue 2, by the way, and this is like 2 years old. Let me just get into like the package.json and see what Vue version this is.
So I imagine things have changed a little bit in Vue.
Yeah, quite a bit. I think we're on Vue 2.9, 2.8 right
cool.
now.
So not a major version, so it's not terrible.
Yeah. Well, they just released like Vue 3, but that's still in beta.
I see.
But yeah, it was a really big change also. But yeah, this not much has changed. I mean, the application still runs, so that's great.
Right.
I think there's maybe a few security updates we need to make.
We had a fun stream with Jason yesterday where he was showing us a 3-year-old Node.js app and could just not get the thing to build. We've decided, folks, let us know if you think this is a good idea. We're going to play a new game where we find old code on GitHub and play Will It Build and just see if we can build the project. Let us know if you'd like to see that, because that's something we're thinking of trying on the stream at some point. But yeah, yours does build, which is very nice.
Yeah, when picking out an application to do like Git blame with, I had like a couple Node.js applications, like some templating engines, and I was like, should I try these? And like those were too risky because I don't think they would work. I had like a couple weather apps and weather services. And,
it's the struggle of old JavaScript. Like we had Shana from Microsoft who bought some 8-year-old C code and it just worked flawlessly. It was like it was brand new because it's C and of course it works. And then JavaScript is always a struggle.
I have not touched C in 3-4 years.
Same. That's a struggle. It was a lot of this show is just like me looking at languages that I've either never seen or haven't looked at since uni. So it's a good time. Okay, so this will make sense to me. This looks very. I guess one thing that is interesting to me here is that like this is like a JavaScript ecosystem web app, and there's like no Express or anything being used in Vue here. I imagine you can do that, but this is like, what is the I guess like what is the route? Like, is this a static site or it's not a static site? We've just seen it work. What is the routing and stuff? Okay.
So there isn't any routing here because I would need like a plugin. So we have something called Vue Router. Right. Routing in Vue is much better than, or at least in my opinion, much better than it is in React. Cool. I think React is very all over the place, and Vue has Vue makes it much easier to do routing and that stuff.
Cool.
Which would
that's all just being handled by Vue. Okay.
Yeah. So you'd handle that with like a plugin, and it would be really intuitive. I haven't done routing myself in like a Vue application in a couple of years because I use Nuxt.js, and that handles routing in sort of like at least I've realized in like a PHP type way where you have like a page folder, and if you need a new folder, you just create if you need a new route, you just create like a new
directory level. Oh, I love that.
Level. Yeah.
So I really like frameworks where it's not quite magic, where it's clear to me how things are done, but where they remove boilerplate. So like that's a really great example where like it's really clear where new directories, where like your file structure comes from. Exactly. And they kind of remove the boilerplate magically, but it's not completely invisible, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
It makes so much sense, and that's like one thing I really like about Nuxt.js.
Yeah,
it's taking like a lot of effort off the developer and making it really easy to do a lot of really complicated things, or like stuff that would be complicated in like Vue because I'd have to install a couple of things, get some boilerplate before I can actually get routing started. But with Nuxt, I really just create like a folder.
Nice. Super cool.
So yeah, let me
keep you distracting. Just get
no worries. And I think this is a bit too big, but let's take it down a notch, just so we can see like the structure. So we use like templating structure where we have different parts of our application here. We have like a template portion for like the HTML. a script section for JavaScript and a style section for CSS. Yeah, and all that's pretty cool because we can make all these things talk to each other. I think like a really good application, like a really good example is this data property is model visible, right? I can define it as false and then use that here in my in my component to sort of trigger whether the model is visible or not. So this would return like true or false, and based off that, we have like a special view keyword, a view directive called view show, which sort of just tweaks CSS properties based on, I mean, VS Code is being very nice and telling us exactly what it does.
Yeah, perfect. That's super neat.
Yeah, and you have a couple of like event listeners. So this is like when you click close, you trigger like a function, and we have like a section where all our functions are defined, and we have a function called close model, and that would really just trigger this function, which would it should turn is model visible to false, and in turn that would make the model not visible because the value changes. And I think it's really interesting how a lot of these things work. Vue has a very interesting, well, at least this is Vue 2, and there was a very interesting approach to like reactivity. So data properties that we define in the data function are reactive and change based on changes to JavaScript properties, and those changes would be reflected in like the HTML portion of everything.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So that makes sense and super simple. That's really nice. So those like, you actually said that they're event listeners. Like the @close and @click is basically like a Vue shorthand for like the usual like JavaScript add event listener dance. Cool. Nice. Super nice.
Exactly. And then like I think we've got a couple. I want to get into like how we display items. So one thing I can commend myself for is I was using like a component based design like very early on. I could have just had like everything in this, but I decided to like put different parts in components and use like models and stuff. So I have a couple of components here. I have like the list of books and the model, all components that I get from this directory.
And a component works very similarly to like this, right? Like it's the same principles. It's just broken out into their own files.
Exactly. So it's I really like the component based design. So we have book list. So I have like 3 components: book item, which is like a single item. I think I went too far with like the components. I could have probably have had like that in book list, but it's cool. I think it was really interesting to show how far queries go. So I'll get into book list. So this is like the list of all the books. And this is where we make the query to our GraphQL API.
Nice.
So again, one thing I can commend myself for doing is having like a loading section. I think you noticed when I refreshed, it said loading, like for when there's a bit of a delay on
when it's still making
Exactly. Cool. So it's better than showing nothing on the screen. Of course, for like production applications, you want to have some sort of animation or
nice little loading wheel.
Exactly. And so this is controlled by another view keyword, which is vif, which really just renders applications based on the truthiness.
What a wonderful pop-up tooltip.
I know, right? And cool. So I want to get into the query here, and
this is making me in the background. By the way, I'm poking. I mentioned that my own website is in Vue, and I have never looked at the source since I deployed it. I'm poking around trying to find the equivalents of what you're showing me in my own my own website and understanding my own code as we go.
Yeah, this is me doing the Lord's work. Okay, cool. So this is actually pretty interesting. So I have a GraphQL.js file in in the constants folder. And inside this, I have, also, let me just close this, this window because, yep, there we go. The terminal. I was closing the terminal. Like we have a GraphQL.js file. Inside that, I have a query and a mutation. So one thing I would have done differently now is I like to separate my queries and mutations because it's much easier to maintain. Especially as your application grows, because I have applications that I have like 4 or 5 queries, 4 or 5 mutations, and if they're all over the place, it can be a headache to find out which one's the right one. So yeah, I would probably have a different file like query.js and mutation.js and have all my application queries in query.js and my application mutations in mutations.js. Yeah.
But when you've just got two, it's not super unreasonable to have them together.
Yeah. For like this size, I think it's okay.
Right.
So that's very fine.
Nice.
But yeah, this is
very simple.
Do we make like a GraphQL query? I think I still have
well, you said the server's running, so I guess it's working.
Yeah, so this is powered by Hasura.
Right.
And I guess we can still make queries. Well, they have a very visual query builder here, so you can.
Oh, that's really nice.
We can just like click stuff.
Yeah.
So we want to get books, and inside books we want the author and the ID and the name, and we literally just run that query and we get back all our data. And yeah, that's what's happening in the background. This is it's like JSON style data that we're getting back, and then we then display this on our web page.
Right.
Yeah. So
cool.
I think we can get into displaying that data. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, if you're up for that, let's do it. So I was checking. I had that GraphQL Explorer looked very similar to GitHub's one, and so I was checking whether I imagine they all use GraphQL. And I was checking if GitHub's one also had the visual builder, but I don't think it does.
No, I don't think it does, because I think this is something Hasura developed on their own. I'm not sure, because I haven't really seen this with a lot of GraphQL graphicals.
Right, and it's additionally cool as well because that's like based on the data that you have as well. So like it's a really you could just I guess throw all your data in Hasura. So I'm not going to make you do your old job of advocating Hasura, but you can throw all your data in Hasura and then just go here to work out the queries you need, which is really cool.
Exactly, it is really cool. But it's really fun to just go back and look at that and have it actually work after so much time. That's nice to have. But yeah. So this is the source of our queries and mutations. I don't think I've talked about mutations. So mutations are sort of, we have CRUD, right? Create, read, update, delete. And mutations sort of touch on the create and update and delete. So this is like ways of sort of changing your data or creating or like really just changing the state of your GraphQL API. So we have a mutation here to add a book, which is sort of creating a new entry in our API. And this is an interesting way of adding variables because you don't really have static data, right? Like you have no idea what data is coming in from your user. So you have to use variables, of course, to get that data into your API. And this is sort of how you do that in GraphQL.
Yeah. So that's obviously the type for what you're expecting. What's why does it have the exclamation? What's the bang about string exclamation point?
So this is whether it's strict or less strict on the type of data that you're getting in. So that's another thing actually. So I don't think many people have gone through GraphQL this way. My introduction to GraphQL wasn't building GraphQL APIs. It was just using GraphQL APIs and using it in the front end, right? So it wasn't from like a back-end developer's perspective. So I never really understood a lot of the stuff that went on in the back
Right.
of GraphQL.
Yeah.
Like I knew the operations, I knew a couple of types, but I didn't really understand why stuff had to be like strict, and how the how can I say that? Like
Right.
how stuff happened like in the server, like what logic went on for stuff to actually work out. I didn't really understand that, and it's been a constant journey
Right.
because I think working with Strapi helped. Building more stuff, like more complicated things with GraphQL, led me down a couple of paths that had to make me like figure out how things actually work in
Yeah.
depth. And I was on the Apollo GraphQL stream and with one of their developer advocates, and we just built like a GraphQL API in 5 minutes, like a really
Nice.
small, and I was like, oh my gosh, so that's what happens. That's why everything's like this. And I also sort of started
Interesting.
doing like
Yeah.
a GraphQL workshop. I did a GraphQL workshop for a hackathon, and in the lead up to that, yeah, I figured out a lot of things that I didn't know that I do now. So that was really interesting.
Nice. That's awesome.
It
we used
is.
to mess around with. I think we had a. Was there a GraphQL module in the Campus Experts curriculum, or did we have a webinar on it? We had some. We had some GraphQL.
There was a GraphQL thing, which is funny.
I think that was
because
Wilhelm, right?
Yeah, it was Wilhelm. I did skip it. I skipped it with purpose. I did not want to get it. And then I ended up working with GraphQL, so I was like, "Crap!"
Yeah.
I just
opportunity missed.
I know. So that was really fun. But yeah, that's the GraphQL stuff. Oh, Harshil's here. Hey, Harshil.
Harshil is here. We've got a Campus Experts party going on.
Yeah. Yeah, this is okay. So there's a couple of interesting things that are going on here. So added text. I'm trying to figure out what this is.
Elements of added text.
Style is.
What are we in? We're in the modal.
Yeah, so we're in the model. I think this. I have a feeling this has something to do with the text that comes up that says I added.
Oh, added text is what the book you just. Oh, I see. The book you added. Okay, or rather,
all right. So here
to tell you added a book. Yeah.
Exactly. So the display is none, and I changed that when book added. Okay, cool.
It's amazing how even obvious variable name or obvious like names for functions and variables can actually make zero sense when you haven't looked at them for a while.
I know. Which is something I sort of like when I was looking at this application, I was like, what approach do I want to take into this? Because like I mentioned when we brought it up, this was sort of like my first DevRel sample app.
Right.
And I looked at stuff that I have now, and I was like, okay, maybe I should talk about how to present a sample application.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can actually do that. Can we?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do that, we can totally do that. I mean, I guess you've kind of been doing that. You've been presenting your sample application to us. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything around that you want to talk about, you're very welcome to.
Okay. Let's do that. So
cool.
This is. I'll just finish up here and then we'll start with that. So like this is the model. This is like where we have the mutation happening. This is where we're adding the data, and like we have a method section where we sort of call different what's the word? Variables. Yeah, different functions that we want to run in our template. And so we have all of this stuff happening. We import our mutation, and then we pass our variables. So we have a form here where we enter, like we have two input sections where we enter like the book name and the book author, and we store these in our data function, right? And because they're in our data function, we can reference them in our script section using like the this keyword. And that way they get added to the mutation when it's sent to the server, and that's how they get added to your GraphQL API, which is really cool, I think. Yeah, there's like a bunch of CSS here.
Yeah.
Another thing I would have done, I would have probably used the CSS framework because, like, you can tell the design is. Where's my page?
Get on that Tailwind train that everyone is currently on, including us. Raise.dev is Tailwind, I believe.
Oh, really? The page is like the design of Raise.dev is really good, by the way.
Eileen does fantastic work.
It is amazing. Yeah, so I would have done something different. I will definitely show off like stuff I've done now.
Right.
Just so I can what is that? Dynamic. Crap, okay, we'll just go to it on my GitHub.
The dynamic zone thing you were talking about?
Yeah. So
oh god, Dev's polling out for Game of Thrones characters. Brutal.
Oh, did you see it? So okay, yeah. So this is sort of what I want to contrast.
Yeah.
And show off, I guess. Is this it? Yeah, okay, that's it. So this is, where is that application? It's do view. Also, my naming was terrible. Yes. So let's look at the GitHub repo of the application and try and figure out everything I did wrong.
Not wrong. Just didn't know better.
Exactly. Could have done better. So I think everything looks okay, I guess, if you are looking at it with an untrained eye. So like, I think for one, the repo name could be better.
Right.
I could have done a really good job on being like a better description.
Sure.
But it isn't like, there isn't like a hard requirement on that if the other stuff are done.
Yeah, I mean, loads of projects have abstract names, right? Like Tailwind is a great example. Like, what the hell is Tailwind? Like,
exactly. But I guess like they have that abstract name, but they have like a really cool way of describing it.
Right.
I just said a quickly changing view project.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, at the time was very true. And then I'd had no link to like a demo app that anyone could try out.
Yeah.
That's something I'll definitely change. My README is terrible. I think one of the developer advocates at, well, now Vonage, gave a really good talk. I think it's Lorna, about how your READMEs should.
Lorna Mitchell.
Yeah, Lorna Mitchell, and about how your READMEs should sort of be like mini blog posts that people can look at and be able to run the applications. And sort of give them context into what's going on.
I believe it's this talk. GitHub is your documentation landing page. Is it that one?
Yeah, cool. It is that one. And I really just linked to my dev profile and had like a bunch of instructions for. Also, these are like boilerplate. Like, I didn't write them. These are like, when you create your application, these just come up. And I really didn't put a lot of effort into getting people to, making sure people are successful in running this application. So that's sort of my retrospective on how I did on
the repo itself. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, on the repo. Yeah. And now I want to jump into the Game of Thrones one. Where is that?
Game of Charts.
Game of Charts. Because I did that a year ago.
Cool.
So I think I did moderately better.
Yeah.
Game of Charts,
straight away, your emoji game is on fire in this README.
Right? I really like this. So I really enjoyed making this project, to be honest. Right. And I think I did a few things right. I had a really detailed description of what was going on. And I had a demo application. I have no idea if this is still running. Probably not. Probably.
Do you remember Game of Thrones, when people spoke about Game of Thrones before it just like completely died and exited our collective consciousness?
So so this game was actually inspired by, I think, the last season when. Oh yeah, so let me just read that. They're about, to be honest, a real-time application to visualize votes on who folks think will die in episode 3 of Game of Thrones season 8, built using Vue.js, and Strapi.
And episode 3 being the big battle at
exactly
wherever, Northern City. Yeah.
Yeah, so I built out that application in time and like shared this with everyone. And I think it went like I had so many people voting. Like I had to refresh my Heroku instance because it was getting so much attention. I had like 100,000, 170,000 people who voted on this, and like it was. I think it was a good thing. I guess.
Yeah.
For perfect timing, I think this was my peak.
You were there at the cultural moment.
Exactly. I feel like I peaked after.
God, that many people voted Aya. Of course, we won't say whether that came true, but in case for some reason you haven't seen that.
I don't remember who died.
Well, I think the thing everyone was angry about. Sorry, I'm going to do spoilers. If you don't want Game of Thrones spoilers, log off. I think the thing that everyone was angry about with this episode was like no one died. It didn't matter at all, right? Which was like so weird. Yeah. There was all those scenes of like all the main characters, like what's his name? John's best mate.
I have no idea.
This is now a Game of Thrones show.
Okay, wait. I think I have the name here. Maybe.
Sam. There was like this is what made people angry. There's like a shot of Sam, a guy who can't fight, absolutely covered in zombies, and then like the next scene, he's just walking around like nothing happened, and that's why like people were like, "What is going on?" Anyway.
Yeah. Last season was yeah. But anyway, that's what this application was about. Like, I have a really descriptive description.
Right.
I have a link to a demo application so people can actually play around with it. I have, at least it says what it's built with, but I didn't really do a really great job.
And it's a short, concise description of like the tech stack and
yeah. And this was like a year ago, so I guess there's growth.
Yeah.
And then I want to look at something that I did recently this year, 3 months ago.
Nice.
So this is a minimal Sapper blog built with Strapi. I really like this. And also this is proof that my CSS has got better.
Just to redeem yourself.
Yeah,
very nice.
Just to redeem myself. I really like this, to be honest. So this is on Heroku. So I don't think this will work.
Okay.
It is spelled. I've been trying a lot of these front-end frameworks quite a bit. So my article section is the part that uses Strapi, and that's hosted on Heroku. I think that's still sleeping and might take a while before it...
your article for this is in Smashing Magazine. That's cool.
It is. That was my first time in Smashing Mag. It was very fun to write.
Nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, this that's so there's a link, a very short description, but at least it gives you an idea of what's going on. And
you have a screenshot.
I have a screenshot. The README I think is really good because it talks about the features. Well, I need to change this, of course, because the blog post is up. And like ideally I linked like a blog post here, just so that this is like a central resource for everything about the project, and talks about the features it has. It's like page prefetching. When you hover over a tab, it sort of prefetches that page, so there's less of a lag when you click on it, which is a really cool feature. And it uses GraphQL. And then because with Strapi, we're using a headless CMS, and with CMSs, a huge part of it is how you structure your content, like what is the architecture of your content. And I have a description of this also. So, title, description, and even like the type of this field. And
which is, it's kind of like if anyone wanted to extend this, or like you wanted to build a new front end that was built on top of that same Strapi instance. It's like describing your API, right? It's just like how to grab the content, how to work with it, and what you need to consider.
Yeah, and then you also have like a page, like a section that shows all your routes and what the routes do. I think this is really cool also. And I was a lot more concise on how to actually get the application running. So I feel like there's progress made in terms of like creating a great developer experience. So even just beyond running it locally, I have like a section for deployment for both your front end and your back end. And I think this.
What do you think of Svelte and Sapper. And this is purely a selfish question because I was looking at both very recently because I was like, I want to build a website for a thing, but it's been like a million years and I don't want to have to do the React dance. How do you find them as a framework compared to the other things you know?
I think so I have like a ranking system, I guess, of ease of use. And I don't know, so Svelte and Vue are sort of at the top. With Vue, I'm unsure if this is a familiarity thing or it's like an actual thing that is actually the easiest for me personally. But it's definitely Vue, Svelte, and then React at the bottom. Wait at the bottom. I don't know, React. Like I can still create React applications. I've done like a few, but I do not enjoy it. But yeah, Sapper is like Svelte's approach to like a unified framework for creating web applications. So I should think they also have that functionality that lets you create like a page. I mean like a directory. So you have like routes, and if you need like a new route, all you have to do is create like a new file. So these are all the routes I have: index, about, and articles. And all of these come from really just creating a file and and going with it. So this is like their way of doing routing with Sapper. And I think this is
I really like the component approach in Svelte. It's really nice. And Vue looks very similar. There's like part of what, like when you were showing me the Vue stuff, it looked very similar to what I'd already picked up from like the Svelte tutorial that I've been doing recently.
So they have like, just like Vue has like everything in sections. I forgot the name for this. There's like a very specific name for this way of having files. But if it comes up, single file something.
That would make sense.
I would think about it.
Let's see if it comes up in their tutorial in the first couple of pages.
Yeah, now I need to search this.
A component is a reusable self-contained block of code that encapsulates. That's not really the term you're looking for. Who knows? Single file. I don't know. No. It's like tip of the tongue syndrome is the worst thing when like the word is right there.
Yeah, so single file components. Yeah, that's what they call it. So it's like, instead of having like a folder for your component where you have like the CSS and then like the JavaScript and your template, you have like a single file component where you have everything inside. And that's, I think Svelte does that. Where is that? Here it is. Yeah, Svelte does that and Vue does that. And I think it's very useful for building applications, which is great, which is really nice. Cool. I think so again, this is very much an opinion of mine. I think opinions in terms of like of how much people want JavaScript in their frameworks, I think Svelte takes a more JavaScript oriented approach to building web applications. Vue is more of like the templating. Like, of course, you can do a lot of JavaScript stuff, but I think Svelte makes it easier to do those JavaScript stuff with your single file components. So if you want to be creative with that, that's
cool. That's good. That's good to know, because I am always keen to avoid JavaScript where I can. So that's a nice. that's a very useful comparison for me.
So Vue would be your go-to. I think that's something I enjoy about Vue also. And there's the whole discourse of people saying Vue is for lazy developers,
which is perfect. That describes my methodology to a T. It's right? I write code when I have to.
Not like this. I don't know why there's people who enjoy or think struggling is like there's, I don't know. Anyway,
part of the legitimacy is like you have to have had a hard time for it to be worth doing.
Yeah, no, I don't think it should be like that. But people are people.
And they will never stop people.
Exactly.
Very cool.
So I think that was a really cool retrospective, if I can.
And that I think that was a good look through like several generations of READMEs and how your approach has changed to documenting your projects. That's really useful. We did a little bit of that yesterday. If folks want more on this topic, you can check out our stream last night with Sarah Guffels from Microsoft towards the end of the stream. She showed us through some readmes that she thinks are good project readmes that will continue this topic.
I was very selfish and just showed my own readmes. So
no, that's great because it's again like issue. This section is all about your growth and how you've changed doing things, and you were able to point to like, hey, here's three steps where this has happened. So that's perfect.
Yeah, I really like. I didn't even think about it until like I had to start preparing, and I was like, whoa, okay, there's growth.
Right.
And then this is the dynamic zones application that I want to show everybody. I really like it. Right. I feel like when I revamp my portfolio site, this is how it should be.
So I know this blog post took you 16,000 words, but what is a dynamic zone?
All right, that's a really good question. So a dynamic zone is sort of like a section in your web application. So there's two sides to dynamic zones. You have a dynamic zone in your Strapi admin. And that's sort of like a zone where you can add any component to your application.
Right.
So it follows this approach of like modular application. So like, you know how everyone's going with components.
Yeah.
So we're adding like components to our data, and you build your web applications to accommodate these components from Strapi. And anytime you can add stuff to that. So let me actually try, and I forgot what this is called. I'll just start up my Heroku instance.
Sure.
It is sleeping. I hope I don't show anything that's not
supposed to be shown. That's some loud thunder. If y'all can hear weird noises from me, I think Amsterdam's about to get hit with the mother of all storms. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm so jealous. I wish I could have a thunderstorm.
Yeah, we were talking about... I'm British, so everyone I know likes to talk about the weather, and people always start a conversation with me being like, "Oh, I hear the weather's awful where you're," and I'm like, "Yes, absolutely, I love it. I love rain, more rain." And then someone's like, "Oh, it's gonna be really hot next week." I'm like, "I know, I need it to be done with."
Yeah, I have a thing about summer. I do not like summer days, but summer nights. Summer nights are my favorite. Some of my favorites.
Summer nights are good, yeah. But I'm convinced that like humanity's obsession with hot weather is a shared delusion we have, because like you get sunburn, you get sweaty, you get gross, everything's terrible,
you get cranky.
Yeah,
right?
It's not actually pleasant. We've tricked ourselves into thinking it's a pleasant thing. Okay, so we're into Strapi. Oh no, this is Strapi on Heroku. So this is what Strapi looks like.
Yeah, so this is Strapi 3.1, and we're currently on Strapi 3.2.4. Cool. So I need to update this, but not much has changed. There's a few stuff that's changed. Well, we have a huge draft and publish feature, but that's another thing. But yeah, this is, so like, just to give everyone context, this is like the website. And basically we can add stuff to the website without changing any of the code. That's what dynamic zones help us with.
Right. Very cool.
And this is a great example. So I will take stuff out of this page and add stuff here also. And all that is handled. I have like a pages collection type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I have, let's see, where is that? What page what page are we making edits to? This is the about page?
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything. So Strapi saved my life. Cute dog.
Yeah, I was making like, well, I thought we needed more stickers on Strapi, and I was like, hey, let's just be creative and like go crazy with stickers. So I created like a bunch of mock-ups to send one of my teammates who has like designs, and that was like my an idea that did make it, sadly.
Also, it might be a bit dramatic for a CMS, I guess.
Right. But yeah, who knows? It's 2020. It can surprise you.
That's true.
Okay, so I kind of did some magic stuff that I need to explain here. So anyway, we're in like our content type, right?
Yeah.
And we have a dynamic zone, and so when I hover over this plus sign at the bottom, it says add to page zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I click that, we get options for different components that I have created. Mm-hmm. And basically, we can add any of these components to our application.
Sure.
So let's add some rich text.
Mm-hmm.
I will just go over and copy the description of this, and then add that to the web page.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? Okay, yeah, there we go. Save it, and yeah, that's added. And when we refresh our page, we should see that at the bottom.
So something's loading.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. We have our text.
Nice.
And so we can create any component really. If you look at like our collection type, I have these components that I created, and I see people having components like animations for JSON, for videos, for like gallery sort of what do they call them? Slideshows.
Okay.
So like I mentioned, basically you build your application to accommodate these things, and anytime your content managers want, or anytime you want, you can add data to it. So like one thing I like to do is images. I think images like a really good way of visualizing this, because everyone has a hard time adding images, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine like, okay, so like this image, we'll add that to our application really just by picking.
That's nice. I was laughing there because like very early on in my career, I was doing a lot of like WordPress, like sites for people. And I remember this particular project was actually for my mum's business. So my mum runs this like kennel for rabbits, basically. So if you go on holiday and you have a rabbit, she'll look after your rabbit. And obviously she's like not a developer, but she needed a website where she could add new pictures really easily. And I was like, cool, I can make you that on WordPress. And I had to do this like ridiculous series of hacks where like she could just add them to the WordPress gallery, but they'd be displayed in this very minimal template I'd made. And it was done using like, if she tagged them in a particular way, it would show up in the right place. And she never got the hang of it. It probably was really fragile and really stupid way of using WordPress. But yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. But like in CMSs, adding images and pages is traditionally a tricky thing to do.
Exactly. So I like to add like images and stuff to this. Also, that like hacks are like my favorite thing. And oh wait, there's our image.
It's a good balloon.
And yeah, like it is a good balloon. Very smiley, very happy. It's probably taken in 2019. But like you know, one thing I really like about this is like your ability to change the order of stuff.
Yeah. Right.
So we have these arrows, right? And in your dynamic zone, you can basically send stuff to the top, send stuff to the bottom without like touching your code.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. One moment. We've got that situation that we said would happen. The show is not pre-recorded. Why do people keep thinking this is pre-recorded? Hi, Setu. Right. We are here. We are looking at chat, but we're in the middle of a topic. Yeah. we're not going to interrupt the middle of a technical explanation to get into something that's not even a question. Oh, I need like a FAQ in chat. Anyway, sorry, please continue.
Like, is this alive? Is this not alive? Yeah. Okay, no, just to prove that this isn't alive, I will add data to like our application. That says this is not alive. Let's see, can I do that? Okay, so I will change the title of the page to "This is live," right? And what's his username? I won't add
SSEETTOO, but yeah, Setu.
Okay, let's do it. SSEETTOO. This is
there.
Live.
You go. You know it's live now.
Let's change the order. Let's send the balloon to the top. Oh wait, I shouldn't have done that.
Setu, we are looking at, well, actually, I was about to say we're looking at Vue, but we're not anymore. We are looking through some of Daniel's old projects. Daniel is a developer advocate at Strapi, and he was showing us through some of his past code. And basically, we're working our way through, I guess, like your stack preferences and like things you've done in the past. And now we're up to kind of the front end of a more recent app and how Daniel would approach doing these kind of projects.
Yeah.
So this is with Strapi and dynamic zones and yeah.
So our balloon floated to the top, and let's delete this text and save that. Okay, so I won't refresh just so we can have an idea of how things looked. Like I literally touched no code and the appearance of our web page would change quite drastically.
Right.
So nice. Let's just make sure this is saved. Okay, that is saved. And when I refresh my page, everything, things will never be the same.
So Setu, actually, that's a really good question for what Daniel just showed us. So Setu asked, do we code or is it like Wix or WordPress? So, and jump in when I say something incorrect, Daniel, which I probably will, but just to gather my understanding of what you just showed us. So Strapi is a headless CMS, which means unlike Wix and WordPress, it doesn't have a front end. It doesn't have like the page. You build that yourself. So you get to choose what your front end is. But what Daniel's just shown us, which is really cool, is like a no code way of dynamically changing your content and how it appears on the page. So once you've got your site set up with Strapi, it's really easy to change and recompose the page using this feature called dynamic zones. So in answer to your question, like, do you code or is that Wix or WordPress? It's kind of in between. You get the flexibility of a site that you can code yourself, but there are ways to then make that more no code friendly, which like you could get, for example, if you were developing a website like this for someone, you as the developer can do everything you want. And then the people who are maybe less able to code that you give it over to the client or whatever, they don't have to no code to use the website and make it work how they want.
That is very correct. Everything that Joe said. So I broke the site.
Everything I said, super easy. You can do it in no code. Daniel's broken it.
No, so I'll explain why, and it's very, it's actually pretty interesting. So it's the approach I took to building this application. So you see this section here, right? Because I changed this to this is live Setu, right? It sort of broke because I'm checking the page name. I only want to render application that's page specific. So I checked the page name and I had no page called this is Setu. So it didn't render anything. So it worked as it was supposed to. I just should not have changed that. But anyway, here you go, Setu, this is your message, this is live.
They must know it's live by now.
Exactly. So the appearance of everything has changed, which is really cool. And that's really
super awesome
about Strapi dynamic zones.
Yeah. Super rad. Awesome. Cool. Well, we are running close on time. As we get towards wrapping up, is there anything last thing you want to show us or run us through before we lose you?
Let me see. I don't think so.
Cool. Awesome.
I think that's it.
That was a very comprehensive tour.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you.
If people have further questions for you and want to find you on the internet, where's the best place to go?
You can Twitter, I guess, because although I'm off and on, but I guess these days the Strapi Slack would be your best bet.
Okay. Cool.
Otherwise, Twitter. Yeah. No, Twitter is like the safest place because I don't want to have you come into the space that you don't want to be in, right?
Sure. So this is your Twitter, correct? No underscore. Where have I got the underscore from?
Where I can't see it.
Oh, sorry, it's on StreamYard. Boom. There you go. Malgambers?
Yes, Malgambers.
Perfect.
All right. Oh yeah, that's it. Very
wonderful
name.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Racer seems to have errors of underscores. Nicholas, it is a struggle. Okay, sorry. I mean Nick underscore Lass. Okay, cool. So yeah, thank you so much for being here, Daniel, for running us through that, for running us through Strapi and your career, and showing us various evolutions of how you approach these kind of projects. That's super neat.
Yeah.
All those links are in chat. No worries. And I will do the backstage shuffle and wrap up the show. So thank you again very much. See you later. Right. I will eventually find an elegant way to do that shuffle, but until now you get the awkward, I'm gonna move you backstage now. Anyway, thank you again, Daniel, and thank you to everyone who viewed and interacted with us in chat. It's been super fun. This is our second from last show of the day, so we have one more show left. That is in about 4.5 hours, and that is with Hugh Rawlinson, who I see Hugh's username in the chat. I don't know if he's actually here. Hugh Rawlinson is a really awesome JavaScript developer. We are going to be looking at some like his technique for doing like automated releases using semantic release and some other cool stuff. And then we might also get into Hugh has a really interesting background in like audio relevant code and technologies. So hopefully we're going to look a little bit at the web audio API, which is a way of making bleeps and bloops in your browser, and look at a synth that Hugh made recently. we were kind of talking last night about the different things we can cover, and we have quite like a dizzying variety of random topics. So we're going to have fun. It's going to be great. So that's in about 4.5 hours. If you want to see our full schedule, we are live 3 times a day all throughout October. So there's 8 days left that we're live. We're live on weekdays, not weekends. You can find our schedule for the week at twitch.tv schedule. Let me give you our regular schedule teaser. So I already told you what's happening later. We've got Hugh Rawlinson on a little bit later. Tomorrow, in the 10:30 a.m. UTC slot, we have Beth Pan from Microsoft, and we're going to be doing a maintainer show and tell. So that's when we look at a open source project that one of our guests maintains, and we're going to be looking at a toolkit for Microsoft Graph. Then we have Adrian Howard from Coria. We're going to be talking to Adrian about kind of managing open source and work, about his life and work as a developer advocate for Coria. And then we've got Jennifer Davis again from Microsoft. It's kind of very Microsoft day tomorrow. Jennifer Davis does a lot of work in like the DevOps world, and we're going to be looking at Porter, which is an open source project that just got adopted by the CNCF and is going through their incubator. So that's going to be super cool. Friday, we have Josh Dezilak from the Orbit project, which I know Daniel was familiar with. Orbit is a super cool project to basically help with analyzing open source communities. It's a project I personally am very interested in. We were talking about it a little bit earlier in the chat. We've got him, and we're doing with Josh, we're going to be looking through a Hugo and Reveal app, as well as talking about him and Orbit. Stefan Young from Customer.io is our middle show for Friday. We're going to be looking at a SMTP server that is used in Customer.io and is also open source. So that's going to be super fun. Again, kind of a maintainer show and tell, but also kind of like an old code thing, because they still use it internally, but it is old code. And then our final show of Friday is Corey Alexander, which is a double bill. We're going to be looking, first of all, at an old project of Corey's, Sleet, which is no longer used, and talking about what he would do differently today. And then we're going to be looking at one of Corey's newer projects, and how I think the story with that one is it was originally in Bash, and he then migrated it to Rust, I think is the story. I need to double check I'm right on that, but that's going to be a super cool episode as well. Very code heavy for the rest of the week, which is nice. So that's everything for our schedule this week. We've still got, I said, we've got next week as well. I'll put the schedule up for next week over the weekend. If you want notifications when we go live, because we go live 3 times a day and it's a lot to keep track of, you can get those notifications by following us here on Twitch or by following us on Twitter at RaisedDevs, where we tweet an hour before every show. So it's really easy to keep up to date with when we go live. So last thing from me, just a little reminder that if you are trying to make your developer career, or you're trying to progress in your developer career, and you feel like you just need that little bit of help, you need someone with experience to guide you, Raise.dev is here to help. We have expert coaches who will work with you towards your goals, whether it's getting your first developer job, changing careers, moving from mid-level to senior, whatever move it is, they'll help you get the experience you need to make that transition. And we are completely free whilst you're in early access. So you can find out more and sign up at raise.dev. And other than that, that's it from me. Thank you again to everyone joining here. Thank you for our special guest, Daniel. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that we see you later on. And if we don't see you later on, I hope we see you sometime soon. So thank you again. Farewell.